Yes, now ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Thomas Rants YouTube channel. My apologies. After last video, when I made a Raw reaction the day after Monday Night Raw, it's literally nearly been a week, I made a promise to be consistent and do the same with NXT and the same with SmackDown. And if anything, I've been the most inconsistent I possibly could have been. But we're here now. We've watched NXT, we've still not watched SmackDown, but I'm going to give you my NXT reactions now. Where should I start? We had some nice matches. It kicked off with a lot of matches. I mean, it kicked off with Blake Monroe having a match with Claudia Jordan after last week. Jordan Grace comes back to try and chase her out, and Blake Monroe gets chased out, and that ends the match in countout for Claudia Jordan. The NXT Women's North American Champion Sol Ruca main events, defending against Tatum Paxley in quite a decent match where the Culling got involved, Zarya got involved, and even Lash Legend and Nia Jax got involved. I mean, Lash Legend and Nia Jax were brawling all night after Nia Jax had a match with Thea Hale, who also was posting on social media trying to, get into Nia's head because Nia's coming into NXT, trying to take over, and they're not welcoming it. So Nia Jax dominated and destroyed Thea Hale, then tried to cut a promo on Lash Legend after, and Lash Legend came out and started fighting Nia Jax, and fought all throughout the night, interrupted backstage segments and matches with their brawling. But it was in this main event match that Lash and Nia went crashing through the barricade and stayed there. But due to a lot of distractions, Sean Spears thinking that the doll would help motivate Tatum Paxley, Izzy Dame going against it, either because she knows it'll distract her, or because Izzy Dame actually doesn't want Tatum Paxley to win. We'll never know because of all the distractions. Sol Ruca took advantage, hit the Soul Snatcher, retained the title. So yeah, still champion is Sol Ruca. Sorry, my hair's still wet. I'm going to be fiddling with it for a bit. Still champion is Sol Ruca. Obviously, it wasn't Tatum's time yet, but I believe with the Culling storyline, they're going to propel Tatum to a new height, right? She needs an established, finisher move. She needs some stardom, and that's just going to get with the Culling, because the Culling is a great faction, and I believe in it. Definitely, I fully believe in it. We had the North American champion Ethan Page come out once again after beating Santino Marella, trying to sing this national anthem. That's when he got interrupted by Tavion Heights. Tavion Heights last week just left NQCC, so he's on his own now, and he was calling out Ethan Page, saying Tavion represented USA in the Olympics, so he can respect Ethan Page for representing his country, essentially. And stuff like that. But that's when Chelsea Green came out. And we're like, first of all, Chelsea Green in NXT, that's great. But women coming to a men's segment, right? And she came out backing Ethan Page because she herself is Canadian. She said, yes, your first ever, longest reigning, most dangerous Women's United States champion of all time. Obviously because she's one of three and she was the longest reigning so far. Is actually Canadian, which obviously we all knew. And she was backing Ethan Page. And that's when she said, Tavion, you'll do nothing about it because you wouldn't have the balls to hit me. And he says, I wouldn't. But then he punched Ethan Page and he said that he would find someone to face Chelsea Green. Now, obviously, this is good because this means the future North American title shot for Tavion Heights in the future, which is good because utilises talent under a bit of spotlight. And obviously, he's not going to win it, but it's a good way to start. I mean, if you look at Miles Bourne, he's going on his own way. He had a great match, probably one of the best matches of the night against Lexus King. There was moments in that Lexus King is claiming that Miles Bourne isn't deaf and he's milking it and all this. And Lexus did a lot in that match to try and hurt Miles Bourne. I mean, he stomped his head on the steps, on his ear, to try and burst his eardrums. Eventually, Miles Bourne got the win, and, it's clear that they're trying to build up Miles Bourne, and now they're trying to do the same with Tavion Heights, and it's great. And they actually acknowledge each other backstage, saying they were proud of each other, because they both achieved the same thing, leaving the NQCC and going their own way, which is obviously what they want and what they need to propel themselves in their career. And speaking of NQCC, well, maybe it's Gwen because she's still friends with Tavion, who might face Chelsea Green. We don't know. But Gwen and Charlie are the only ones left. Did I say Gwen again? I meant Ren. Ren and Gwen sound very similar. Ren Sinclair, it's just her and Charlie Dempsey in the NQCC now. And she was trying to keep Charlie's, morale high, but obviously he's miserable. And she started singing Joe Hendry's theme, and that's when Joe Hendry appeared. And then she whipped out that she has his outfit on, and he gave an outfit to Charlie Dempsey, and just quite a funny backstage scene. I don't know if it'll go anywhere, but they did say they'd have a match, so they're probably going to have a match next week, Charlie Dempsey and Joe Hendry. But who knows if it'll lead into actually any long-term storytelling. Which I wouldn't mind if it did, because they need to go somewhere with them. Joe Hendry's a star, and they need to do something with him. I always say this about talents, is that they need to do something. It's just, let's not have people who are just like, they're there all the time, they're just in random matches, they're not in stories, and there's nothing exciting. There's just people we want to see, but there's nothing to see them in. Do you know what I mean? So even if they're not a champion or chasing a title, if they're in a storyline, we have some excitement and some hope for them. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? I feel like it makes sense. But Hank and Tank defended their titles, the tag titles, on NXT against Chase U with a bit of a botched finish. I think it was the referee's fault. Obviously, it was the referee's fault. Don't know if I've seen that referee before. Don't know if we should see him again, but it is what it is. They just picked him up and redid it, and Hank and Tank won. But then I got attacked by Dog State, and I love when the lights go out, Dog State's music hits, and they all fight during the music. It makes it look 10 times more epic. So Hank and Tank won a shot at Dog State, and Dog State were cutting a promo saying it was obviously us that attacked us a couple of weeks ago, and we're not going to stop. Our point's been proven, and we're going to keep proving it. We want a shot at those titles. We're going to get a shot at those titles, and that would be great, because Dog State, Hank and Tank, while they had a great story to win the titles, they haven't had a great run, and Dog State obviously will have a good run. Their segments, their matches, they're great. Yeah. And speaking of Dog State and their segments, they had a big segment, but they come into it at the very end. Obafemi, the NXT champion, who's defended against Yoshiki Inamura, Josh Briggs, and the two in a triple threat match, right? He's come out saying there is no one. That's when Trick Williams came out and did the same thing with his TNA title, saying he's the face of NXT, he's the face of TNA, and he's the star. Obafemi's out there saying there is no one, and Trick Williams says, well, I'm right here. And Obafemi says, here's the thing. You say you run TNA, which fair enough, you probably do, but you don't run NXT because I'm the NXT champion. And the truth of the matter is, you can never beat Obafemi, and that is true. He could not. Despite the fact it was in a lot of multi-man matches, he could never beat Obafemi. And that's when Javon Evans came out, and this was the angle I gave it last week, when Trick was kind of pawning off Javon. Javon was told by The Undertaker to aim high, obviously aim for Obafemi, and Trick Williams and Obafemi are having that stare-off. So it's almost as if the three are intertwined again, just like Stand and Deliver. And I honestly thought we were going to get a Stand and Deliver rematch. So that's when Javon came out and kind of teamed up with Obafemi like it wasn't the first time, and just agreed with Oba that Trick is just an idiot, and he's just full of himself, and he's trying to convince himself that he is what he says he is. And him and Oba both came up with the great idea to have a match. Javon Evans, Trick Williams, the winner gets to face Oba, and they wanted it tonight, or on that night. And Trick said that in 2 weeks when they're in Philadelphia, because again, NXT do these every couple of weeks, they travel to a different city. Which obviously is the heel move, putting it off. But that's when Moose comes out, which is very surprising. Now, I don't know much about TNA, but I know Slammiversary just happened, and I know Moose lost the X Division Championship, which he did have last time when he came to NXT and faced Obafemi. But apparently now he's challenging for the TNA World title against Trick Williams in less than 2 weeks. So, fair enough. So we kind of have the four of them in the ring there. And this was amazing, because I was like, this is the NXT title. Literally last week had nothing. This week we've got four big stars in the ring at one time. Obafemi, Javon Evans, Trick Williams, Moose. And that's when Dog State music hit. And they all came down the ring to try and fight them. And I was dead baffled, because Dog State are supposed to be in this rivalry with Hank and Tank now. And they went in the ring to attack them, but of course it's Javon Evans, it's Moose, it's Trick Williams, it's Obafemi. Dog State actually got their ass kicked and got sent out of there. So the four of them went to Ava's office, and Ava confirmed everything. She confirmed that in 2 weeks at Philadelphia, Javon and Trick will face off. The winner gets to face Obafemi at Heatwave. And that next week, the four of them will team up against Dog State. And then Hank and Tank came in because they also wanted revenge at Dog State. And then they said they'll get Dog State at Heatwave. So that's exciting. Dog State, I hope, win those tag titles. And honestly, in 2 weeks' time, I don't think there's going to be a winner between Javon and Trick. I honestly think we're going to do a stand and deliver a rematch, which I'm there for. But if anyone had to win, make it Javon Evans. Trick has the TNA World title. We don't need to say that much. Do you know what I mean? I feel like Javon needs it way more than Trick does. Let's just be honest, right? So yeah, the only thing left to talk about is the NXT Women's Championship, which has nothing right now because Jacy Jayne's TNA Knockouts champion and NXT champion. She's beat the bitch from TNA. Jordynne Grace is distracted with Blake Monroe. So when they were backstage, you know, there was some TNA guy come up to her, tell her to post the titles because she's having a match with a TNA star. No clue. So she's going to defend that. I hope she loses it because Jacy Jayne, I thought, would lose the title by now. I'll be honest. I thought she was a bit, not transitional champion, but just a temporary holder of the championship. You know what I mean? But it turns out she's not. NXT are actually putting their money on her. But backstage, she stirred up a tag team match where Fallon Henley and Jacy Jayne are going to face Kalani Jordan and Lola Vice next week, which is just another filler match. And I'm hoping Jordynne Grace, Blake Monroe gets an actual result at Heatwave and we don't drag this feud out because we need a serious contender for that NXT Women's Championship. And finally, while I'm remembering it, I've almost forgot. Obviously, last week when Inamura and Briggs kind of brawled, Inamura slapped Stacks, so Stacks had a match with Inamura tonight. But before the match, Ariana Grace was kind of flirting with Stacks, and that kind of, first of all, it just gave me memories of like Dolph Ziggler and like AJ Lee and stuff like that. But then I just kind of thought, is that maybe an angle they're going to go with? Because Stacks hasn't got the D'Angelo family anymore. Are we maybe going to get a Stacks-Ariana Grace partnership on TV relationship? We don't know. But it did interfere in the match with Yoshiki, and in fact, she distracted Yoshiki Inamura. And then Josh Briggs came along and hit Inamura with a boot, so it's official. They are actually rivals now, and they're no longer a tag team. Briggs is a heel, and Stacks actually got the win, which I think is right, because Stacks did just win a Heritage Cup Championship, which I think they must have got rid of now. And they need to, you know, propel him. And although it's sad for Inamura to lose, he got a lot of hype and a lot of moments in that match. And they need to set up the match with Briggs and Inamura. It is a shame what happened to them as a tag team, but I suppose there's a story there. Both can be utilised, and I think Inamura is the perfect person to improve Josh Briggs in ring and on the mic. And this is certainly doing it. So yeah, it was a decent episode of NXT. It took me so long to watch it, but I promise it won't happen next week. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.